Hello, hello. Welcome back. Thanks so much for joining us. I hope you enjoyed the last episode. It was really great to be able to catch up with my brother and to simultaneously add to the interest of this podcast. So those of you who didn't listen to that one, I know it's a long one. Go back, listen to it. He's a smart dude. He's got a lot of good information, and I hope to take advantage of that opportunity a little more often now that he's done with his degree and his educational doctorate. Again, that's the one with Jason, my brother, and hope you have listened to it. But if not, go back and listen. Today, we are going to talk a little bit about the ripple effect. This is not going to be a long one, but it's going to hopefully hit pretty hard. I'm going to tell you a little story, just a super short story. When I started college, I was planning to become a mathematician. I've probably said that on the podcast. Matter of fact, I know I said that when I was with my brother for a moment. But I had this moment where I realized that the most complex problem is the human part of the equation. And it was when I realized that I switched. I went from being like, hey, let's solve all these math problems to let's solve people problems. And the main reason that is, and definitely one of the main reasons, is the ripple effect. Now, the ripple effect is that, for me, that moment where I went, wait a second, how many things are stacked behind this wave that I'm seeing here? Like, what caused this? Cause, effect, that kind of stuff. Well, where did that ripple come from? Did it come from the past? Or did it come from a neighbor? Right? Like, we're going to get into that today. And we're going to hopefully walk away with an understanding of the ripple effect. The idea that you matter like a ton, like more than you even know. And simultaneously, at the exact same time, there's an insignificance to us. So we matter and we're insignificant? Yep. This concept is right up there in terms of importance, right up there with blind spots, lies, secrets, deceptions, being closed-minded or open-minded, blaming, minimizing, exaggerating, confirmation bias, victim mentality. I mean, these are common things that you've heard me talk about in here. This one is right up there with them. And you're probably going, okay, then what is the ripple effect according to you, Jeremiah? Of course you're thinking that. Why wouldn't you think that? The ripple effect is pretty simple, right? You throw a rock in the water and the ripple goes out until it fades. So we want to make ripples. What kind of ripples do we want to make? Do we want to make big ripples, little ripples? Do we want to make insignificant ripples or important ripples? These are all questions you have to ask yourself. So I'm going to take you to what is the ripple effect. And rather than give you like a textbook definition, I'm going to give you my statement. And you, as a listener, have to decide, does it fit or does it not fit? And my hope is that regardless of whether it fits perfectly or not, it challenges you and forces you to think more, to feel more, and to ultimately be more. That's my hope. So the ripple effect, it's the acknowledgement of the importance of right now, this very moment, the one you're listening to me in. This moment right now, and how significantly important that moment is. And every moment is that significant. And simultaneously, this insignificance of right now. The idea that this may end up making zero difference to anybody in the world. That's a really tough, what we call gray spot. It's that thinking that happens in the middle of like, well, Well, it's not black and white. It's gray. It's abstract. It's not concrete. So let's take a look at that. Let's break it down a little bit. What does it mean to be both the most significant and potentially the most insignificant moment? And every single moment could be that, the most significant or the most insignificant moment. Internally, within the psychological mind, the moment, the very moment, which we often refer to as an engram. The engram, the very first of a memory that everything else is built on. The engram is both the most or potentially the least important thing ever, because you build off of it. But sometimes we build the wrong thing. So when we look at the ripple effect, that engram is exponentially important or infinitesimally insignificant. It either matters a bazillion times over again or not at all. That's the psychological effect. Every emotion has the potential of saving a life or having no meaning whatsoever. As you've heard me say, emotions are fickle. They come and they go. So that's tough. I mean, what do we do with that? I'm still left going, I don't know what to do. I'm thinking the same thing as you. So then we go on to the next phase. We look at, like, say, like a family. Let's look at a systems perspective. Okay. From a systems perspective, we would then go, okay, well, let's look at patterns. Within a family, families have certain traditions, patterns, things that they do routinely. And those patterns dictate what happens with kids moving forward. Oh boy, this is going to get complex, but hold on, let's turn inside first. If you want to know me and to know me well, you also must know my wife, my children, my mother and father, my grandparents, my siblings. You have to know those things to know me. Why? The ripple effect. All of them have played a part in the tumultuous or the calmness of the water, of the system, of the person that sits in front of you here today. That's the ripple effect internally. Externally, it goes traditional. We look at generations and generations. It's where we see patterns of abuse or patterns of love, patterns of wealth or patterns of poverty. And can we break those patterns? Absolutely, we can. But if we're not doing it on purpose, it's not going to accidentally happen. We have to choose to say, hey, this is a pattern I want or I don't want. Okay. So the internal and the external when it comes to a system like a family. Well, let's go bigger. Let's go social, cultural. Well, let's look at the individual within that system. Let's say, you go to the store and you steal a candy bar. Like, so what? It's just a candy bar. It's like 75 cents. Well, nowadays it's probably like $1.25. Okay, so what? It's just $1.25. But let's play it out through the ripple effect. The ripple effect would say that has an impact somewhere, just like your parents had an impact on you, just like your siblings had an impact on you, just like your initial memories have an impact on you today, right? Let's play out this candy bar thing. You steal a candy bar and it's $1.25. The store goes, oh no, we lost inventory. So what is the store going to do? The store is going to have no choice but to jack up the prices to cover for theft, right? They have to make money to stay in business. If they don't make money, and pay at least enough to pay for their food and all of that stuff, they don't stay in business. They just can't. And so what do? They jack up the price. They calculate over a year how much loss they have. They probably, it might be something like 5% or 10%. And so what do? They jack up the prices on all goods a little bit to cover for theft. Well, then what happens next? Now more people can't afford things. And so now there's more theft. And so then they jack up the prices even more. And you see how that could be a negative ripple effect. At the same token, not all ripple effects are negative. They could be really positive. You go through the drive-through and you pay for the person behind you. They show up, they get ready to pay, and the person at the window says, "Oh, the people in front of you already got your tab." What? Wow, that was super nice. And so you drop $10, even though your drinks or food or whatever, may have cost $12. And you walk away going, "Huh, I got a good deal." And the people behind you, they come up and they're like, "What? Somebody contributed $10 to my, holy smokes, that's so nice." And next thing you know, there's also all of these people talking about how nice it was that somebody was nice to them. The ripple effect. That stuff is contagious, like a ripple also. So it's not always just negative. So it could be a stolen candy bar, or it could be a pay it forward kind of a situation. But then we add time into there. Generational. And you can see sometimes as a therapist, I look at the people in front of me and I'm like, wow, you have carried this from your mom and your dad. They carried it from their grandpa and their grandma, and they carried it from their parents. And so things sometimes skip generations. So we inherit things that our grandparents gave to us directly. And sometimes they come generation to generation to generation. And it gets really complicated because over time, even though some things become really clear, many things become very difficult to see. And so we have to really take a look at them over time. Well, cultures are no different. We have to also look at them over time. Where are we in time with this particular subject and category? And where did that ripple come from? And what does it mean now? Who got on board? So talking about the ripple effect, I'm sort of hinting at what's coming. The storm that we are in. Think about it, tumultuous waves everywhere. And we are just a stone, a single solitary stone. And we hit those waves that are bouncing here and there and everywhere. How much impact do we actually have? And yet, if you put enough of them together, think of it like a school of fish swimming in a direction at the same time. Can they change the wave? Yeah, sometimes they do. Sometimes they do. And the bigger the school, the bigger the change. So yes, we have both simultaneously no impact and immense impact if we do it together. So this brings me to a question. If it means everything and nothing all at the same time, how do we know what to pay attention to? Well, I gave you part of the answer, because when we do it together, when there's a togetherness, a unity to it, the ripple's bigger, which means we can influence and adjust more. But there's other components. I'm going to tell you right now, you've probably listened to some of my other podcasts. If you haven't, go for it. But it starts with knowing who you are, because you will never maximize your ripple if you don't know when to jump. Right? If you jump into the storm, there's a good chance you're wasting your time. You're going to get hurt. But if you jump into the calm, you can send out a big ripple. And that ripple, if enough of you do it together, could affect a storm. Either create one, that could be a problem, or end one, like a tsunami. Now we individually can't stop a tsunami, but collectively we can do more than stop a tsunami, not in the literal sense, but in the metaphorical sense, relationally, within social constructs. Now there are limitations even with the ripple effect, but knowing who you are, knowing your morals, your beliefs, your standards is a great starting spot, like a fantastic starting spot. Relationships, another significant category. Growth, both individually and together, is another significant category. And time. Look, we get impatient. We get impatient. We think, I didn't make a change yesterday. What's the difference now? Well, you got 24 hours more of growth. That's the difference. And you don't minimize that, because in the big picture, that's the moment, right? 24 hours in the big picture is not a lot. A year in the big picture is not a lot. Ask somebody like, I don't know, Mahatma Gandhi. Ripple. We still talk about him today. Abraham Lincoln. Ripple. We still talk about him today. We could go on and on. I could give you name after name after name who understood the ripple effect. They knew that the moment they were in was both unbelievably important and simultaneously insignificant. It kept them humble, moving forward, saying, I'm going to make sure that when that moment comes, that my moment is significant, that I step through that with grace and power, and I make a difference. That's what they do. When you remember somebody, it's because of that. They knew the power of the ripple effect. Now, they may call it something else, but at the end of the day, anybody who's talked about generations later has had a ripple effect. They have paid it forward in a way, not always a good way, right? We do talk about the good and the bad of it. Sometimes we get a Hitler who seems to get the ripple effect, unfortunately, using that power for negative things. And sometimes we get a Gandhi, or we get a Mother Teresa, or a Martin Luther King Jr. You got to choose which version you're going to be. And that's based on your morals, the relationships you form, the value you put into them and get from them, your growth, and what you do with your moments. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope this was helpful. Have a great day.